Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the next President of the United States, Mitt Romney!
Pensacola. You guys. Well, we are going to win this. You know that. We're going to win, yeah. Thank you to Senator Marco Rubio for introducing me today, and thank you to the next United States Senator from Florida, Connie Mack. We got to get him in that Senate. I want to thank also Congressman Miller for being here, and I have to tell you how much fun it is to be back in Pensacola, and that's a welcome like none other. Thank you so very much. Thank you. Now, last time I was in Pensacola, I was here with Senator John McCain. And as I drove in today, it was good to see that the city seems to be doing very, very well. Appreciate, Mayor, your introduction today. And I know John McCain was worried. He was afraid that when he left flight school that the liquid hospitality business would totally collapse. But apparently it continues to do pretty well. You know, all across America, people are paying a great deal of attention to this race. They recognize that this is a critical time for the country, that we face big challenges, that we have big opportunities. And they know this is a big election. So the crowds are large and people are paying very close attention. 4 years ago, then candidate Barack Obama spoke about big things. But now he's reduced to talking about small things. He is shrinking from the magnitude of the times. And so he's speaking about characters on Sesame Street and silly word games and attacks on me. Look, attacking me is not an agenda for the future, and that's why we're replacing. You know, his presidency also shrunk from the promises he made as a candidate. He promised that his would be a post-partisan presidency. But we've watched him over these last 4 years, and he's been divisive and demonized almost any group that opposed him. He also promised that he would cut the deficit in half. Instead, he doubled it. And you know, I know he says he wants to do something to help the budget, but I've learned that in order to balance a budget, it helps to have actually had a budget. To start with a budget. And you can't balance a budget unless you start with one. And he actually put out a proposal this last year for the House and the Senate to look at. Now, there are 535 members of the House and Senate combined. Do you know how many people voted for his budget? Yeah, zero. No one voted for his budget. Paul Ryan and I are going to get America on track to have a balanced budget. He took on during his campaign another big promise. He said he would save Medicare. He'd preserve it and protect it and save it from pending insolvency. What did he do instead? He cut Medicare by $716 billion. He said he was going to have unemployment today down to 5.4%. We're 9 million jobs short of that. And he has no plan to get this economy going again and to put Americans to work. You notice there's some numbers he doesn't speak about. He doesn't use the number 47. That happens to be how many million people are on food stamps today. 15 million more than when he took office. He doesn't use the number 23 million. That's the number of people who are struggling to find a good job in this country. The president doesn't have a plan. He's out of ideas. He's out of excuses. And this November, Florida is going to make sure we put him out of office. Now, in 2010, then President Obama came to Pensacola. You probably weren't there, but some folks were. And he took pride in saying, and I quote, that he had halted reductions in the Navy. That's what he said. But today he again has shrunk to a smaller version of the Navy and his view of the Navy's role. You may recall in our most recent debate, I made the point that our Navy is now smaller than any time, well, in almost 100 years. And the president's response was, well, you know, we don't use bayonets and horses anymore. And in fact, we do use bayonets. And a modern Navy is one of the critical elements that allows us to protect sea lanes and to keep the world more free and prosperous. I believe in a modern Navy. That's why my plan is to increase the number of ships that we're building to maintain our strong commitment to our military. His vision is not greatness in America's Navy or America's military. His vision is to cut our military spending by $1 trillion. And by the way, $1 trillion in cuts would cost about 41,000 jobs here in Florida. And think of all the businesses that depend upon those jobs. It's extraordinary, but the president's agenda keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Not just for our military, but for Medicare, for jobs. This is not a president who has been able to stand up to the challenge of the times. This is an election about big things, about big choices, and that's why in November we're going to elect a person and a team and a people who are going to come together to bring real change and big change to America. You know, the supporters of the presidents have this chant. They do 4 more years, 4 more years. I like what I heard a moment ago with Marco Rubio. I like 10 more days, a lot better. You know that? You know, it's 10 more days because it matters to you. This election matters to the world, it matters to the country, but it matters to your family. And I hope you understand that this is an election about very big things, like the big things that go on in your life. If you're a senior, or if you have a senior living at home with you, if that senior develops a medical condition that requires a specialist, if the president's reelected, and you call the receptionist of that medical specialist and ask for an appointment, you're likely to hear the receptionist say, "I'm sorry, we're not taking any more Medicare patients." Because of Obamacare, which the president has, used to slash Medicare by $716 billion, some 50% of America's doctors have decided they won't take new Medicare patients. If I'm president, we're going to repeal Obamacare. We're going to honor our promises made to our seniors. And you know, if you're in your 40s or your 50s, and these are the years when you expected to be making a very prosperous living for yourself, putting away a little for your retirement, helping perhaps a child in college, these have not been, these last 4 years, the kind of years you expected. I was on the phone with a gentleman from Waukesha, Wisconsin the other day, and we got some Wisconsinites here, apparently. And he said to me that his job used to pay $25 an hour plus benefits, but the only job he's been able to get today is a job that pays $8 without benefits. People in America are having a hard time, even those that have jobs. I mentioned those 23 million that are out of work or struggling to find a good job. This is a guy who has a job. He doesn't show up in the unemployment statistics, but his life is not what he expected it to be, and that's happening all over this country. His take-home pay is down and prices are up. This has been a hard time for the middle class. And against that, the president has no plan to get people working again. Paul Ryan and I have a 5-point plan that'll put 12 million Americans back to work and get rising take-home pay again. Now, I know we may have some college students in this room here today, and I've got some good news for you. The good news is when I get elected, we're going to make sure there are good jobs waiting for you when you come out of college. And there's something else which I want you to know about. You're going to come out of school with whatever student debt you've put together. It may be $10,000 or $20,000 or more, and you know it's going to take a long time to pay the interest on that and to pay back the principal, and it's going to affect your life. But I want you to also know that over the past several years, the president has been adding to debt that you have to pay for, that you don't know about. It's about $50,000 per man, woman, and child in America. And I'm going to be long gone before it's paid back. You college kids are going to be paying the interest on that debt all your life. And that's going to make it harder and harder for you to achieve the American dream. The president's plan is to keep adding about $1 trillion more to the national debt. My plan is to say, no, we're not going to keep spending what we have not earned. We're finally getting America on track to a balanced budget. Now, Paul Ryan and I have a plan to get these things done. It has 5 major parts in terms of getting this economy going again, and you've heard me talk about them before. These 5 things put in place will create 12 million jobs, get our take-home pay coming up again. Let me tell you what they are. Number 1, we're going to take full advantage of our energy: oil, coal, nuclear, renewables, gas. That's number 1. Number 2, we're going to open up more trade with other nations where we can compete effectively. In Latin America, for instance, the opportunities are extraordinary. I want more trade, but when people cheat on trade, we're going to hold them accountable and stop it. We're going to make sure the training programs we have here in this country work for workers who need those programs, and we're going to fix our schools finally by doing something that's long overdue. And that is by putting our kids and their parents and the teachers first, and the teachers' union is going to have to go behind. Number four, I've already mentioned the budget, but number 5 is this. I want to see us really champion small business. I want small business to grow and thrive and to be able to add more people. Now, the president has a plan for small business. It's to raise their taxes. I won't raise taxes on small business, and I'll cut taxes on middle-income Americans. The president plans to Smother small business with more regulations. You see, regulations are able to be dealt with by large corporations that have dozens of lawyers, and they can implement all these big regulatory changes. But small business gets crushed by these regulations. And so we're going to go through and strip out those that have been put in during the Obama years and put a stop on this regulatory creep that's killing jobs. And of course, if you really want to help small business, you got to take away that big cloud that's scaring away job creators from hiring people, and that is you got to get rid of Obamacare, and we'll replace it, repeal it. Now, those are the 5 things we'll do to get this economy going, but in order for those things to happen, we've got to do something that doesn't happen very often in Washington, and that is Paul Ryan and I are going to have to do what we've done before, which is reach across the aisle. We have to build bridges to people in the other party. We have to recognize this is not a time in America for us to pull back and to divide and to demonize. It's a time in America for us to come together, to look for common ground in places where we have agreement. Paul Ryan has done that. His Medicare plan, by the way, was co-authored by the senator from Oregon, a Democrat. They came together to make sure we could save Medicare. I was elected in a state that has a few Democrats, as you may know. My legislature was 85% Democrat. And we faced a multi-billion-dollar budget shortfall. We could have just fought, but instead we came together and found places to work together. We cut spending. When I say cut spending, I don't just mean reduce the rate of growth. We actually cut spending. We brought it down, and we cut taxes 19 times. And we also made sure that our state was as business friendly as we could make it. And the result was we moved up 20 places in terms of the state's growth rate relative to other states. We also were able to balance our budget all 4 years. In fact, the $3 billion shortfall of our first year, what it looked like, we turned into a balanced budget, and by the last year we put in place a $2 billion rainy day fund. Republicans and Democrats can work together. It demands leadership, and Paul Ryan and I will bring it. The president says that he can't change Washington from the inside. He can only do it from the outside. We're going to give him that chance soon, all right? Now, I have to tell you, I'm confident. I'm confident in our future. I'm so optimistic about America. I know it's been tough these last 4 years, but we're going to come roaring back with an economy that puts our kids to work when they come out of school, that gives people jobs that need those jobs, that assures our seniors they can rely on their retirement. That's going to happen. And it's going to happen because of the American people and the heart of the American people. I've had the chance over my lifetime to see Americans in all walks of life, and as I've done so, I've come away more confident in our future and more proud of this great land. I remember when I was a Boy Scout leader some years ago. And any Boy Scouters here? Yeah, good, right there. And I was at a court of honor. A court of honor is where Eagle Scout awards are given and where other awards are given to scouts. And there was a Formica table at the front of the room, and I was seated at the far end of the Formica table next to the flag. And the person who was speaking at the podium was a scoutmaster from Monument, Colorado. Someone from Colorado over there, yeah. You got everything here in Pensacola, don't you? Yeah. And he said that his scout troop wanted to have a very special flag. And so they bought one, gold tassels on the outside, had it flown above the Capitol building. When it came home, they decided they wanted it to go up with the space shuttle. So they contacted NASA and said, would you take our flag on the space shuttle? And they agreed. He said, you can't imagine how proud our boys were to be watching from their schoolrooms on a TV set there and watch the Challenger shuttle launch until they saw it explode on the TV screen. And he said, he then called NASA a couple of weeks later and said, have you found any remnant of our flag? And they said, no, we're sorry, we haven't. And he called every week, month after month, and still nothing. Until finally, some months later, he was reading an article about the debris from the Challenger disaster, and there was a mention of a flag. And so he called NASA again, and they said, in fact, we have a presentation to make to your boys. And so NASA came, and the boys were there, and they presented the boys with this plastic container. And he said, we opened the container, and there was our flag in perfect condition. And then he said, that's it in the flagpole next to Mr. Romney at the end of the table. And I reached over and grabbed the flag and sort of pulled it out, and it was as if electricity was running through my arm. I thought to myself of the sacrifice of those men and women in our space program who put themselves in harm's way for us, for learning, for pioneering. It's the American spirit to live for something bigger than ourselves, to give of ourselves to things that are large. This is a city of heroes. It said you don't have to be larger in life to be a hero, you just have to be larger than yourself. I think of John McCain, a hero that has roots here in this city. He said no, he tried to deflect the heroism that's associated with his name. He said, no, I had the honor of serving in the company of heroes. And he's right. I think of the young men and women who are coming out of college today, coming out of high school today, who put aside their career and decide to enlist in our armed forces. I appreciate those who serve our country. I love our national anthems. I love the words that we get to sing in our national anthems. One, America the Beautiful, that verse, oh beautiful for heroes proved in liberating strife, who more than self their country loved, and mercy more than life. Where our veterans, please raise your hands, and members of the armed forces, and be recognized. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Americans in all walks of life live for things bigger than themselves. Those in our military live for our country and for freedom. I think of my sister in a very different way. My sister Lynn has 8 children. The first 7 are all married and have children of their own. And the 8th child was born Down syndrome. He's now about 43. Lynn's in her 70s. And her husband passed away a few years ago. She devotes her life to her 43-year-old son to make sure he has a full and occupied life. She's a hero to me. I think of single moms today that are scrimping and saving to make sure their kids have a good meal on the table at the end of the day. I think of moms and dads that are working 2 jobs right now so they can buy clothes for their kids so their kids won't stand out from the other kids at school. I think of couples who this Christmas have decided not to exchange gifts with one another because they want to make sure and have enough for their kids to have a great Christmas. This is who we are as a people. This is one of the things that makes America such an exceptional and unique nation. We live for things beyond ourselves. And this is one of those times when Americans are going to have to look beyond themselves. Look beyond themselves for their senior parents. Look beyond themselves for their kids, the coming generations. Look into the future and see the debt that's being amassed and say, what is right for America? This is a time of big choices, a big consequence. It's a big election. The president keeps talking about smaller and smaller things. We keep talking about larger and larger things. That's why this movement is growing across the country. It's why it'll sweep the nation. It's why we're going to win in November. There's a fictional football team you may have seen in a show called Friday Night Lights some time ago. And on that show, this team that was kind of an underdog, as they'd run out of the locker room and go out in the field for a game, they'd touch a sign that had this slogan. It was clear eyes, full hearts, can't lose. I see the American people today as having very clear eyes about what our future might look like. A bright and prosperous future with the right leadership. I know our people have full hearts. And in November, we can't lose, America. Thank you so very much. I need your help. We need to win this. We're taking back America. This country is the hope of the earth. Thank you so very much. Thank you. To cry, but tell them